Hi, welcome to Hack the File. I'm Michael Lopez, and today we're going to be talking about risk management and cybersecurity. Enjoy. So, let's talk about risk management. Um, so, in cybersecurity, this is for the enthusiasts that want to either learn cybersecurity on their own or go and get a degree like I did and learn cybersecurity through an institution. So, risk management is a big part of cybersecurity. And I would say that almost everything on the operational side, even the technical side, falls under risk management. Now, there's risk assessments and risk um, everything, right? There's different parts of risk, and we'll go over that right now. But risk management is, I would say, the overall all the risk um, protocols and procedures managed, right? Because risk management, right? So, um, so when you're getting into cybersecurity, you're probably thinking like, there's gonna be classes like this, or there's gonna be knowledge like this that you probably go, well, I don't know if I should take that class, right? And let me show you, before we go over this book, let me show you um, basically some of the classes, right, that I took and that are available and that I picked from, right? So, okay, so let me go back to my club chat. All right, so this is the degree I did, and it's called Boise State University undergraduate cyber operations and resilience, right? And this person right here, I actually was on her team. Her name is Chris Pruitt. She's smart. Anyways, I was on her team for our final capstone project. And if you read this, it talks about her, and she's really, really smart. Um, okay, so this is the degree I took, right? And I took the BAS, not the BS, because they gave me 40 credits or whatever from all the math that I took and all the science classes like physics and statistics and pre-calculus and all that. They took all that as credit from my associate's degree. So I would recommend that if you're looking for, if you already have an associate's degree in some kind of applied science where you took a lot of math or something that could apply towards this, I would do it. But if you took like, they also consider foundation classes too. Like they took my reading and writing rhetoric and all that stuff. But like if you've got an A degree in like liberal arts, probably only like 20 credits would apply because this is, cybersecurity is actually, it's in the STEM field. But yeah, they took 40 credits of mine. Anyways, okay, so this is the stuff that I had to take, right? BS and BAS. So information assurance and critical thinking. These are all the stuff you mandatory have to take, right? Your university foundational courses. And I took all this, defensive security, offensive security, recovering forensics, which is digital forensics, networking, systems thinking, which we already went over that in a video. That's awesome. Project management and design was a good one. But this one. I'm glad they make this a requirement because risk management and governance is very important. And I'm going to tell you why. But yeah, then these are the ones where you can pick, right? Cyber risk assessment. I would recommend doing that one too. But when you're looking at the ones to pick, right? And you're like, all right, which one should I do? You're not going to automatically go to risk assessment unless you are in that, like you like that kind of field. But if you're a tech guy, you're going to go, okay, applied security programming. That sounds fun, right? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, or Internet of Things architecture, or cybersecurity operations, or not even that one, right? You don't want to do the operations side. You want to do everything, red and blue teams, and stuff like that, right? But I picked the operations side more, and I did a mixture. So I actually took this applied programming, I learned Python and wrote some scripts and stuff like that. And I didn't take the risk assessment since I already had the risk management and governance. Um, which this I should have taken this one. This would have applied, and I'm gonna tell you a story right now. When I just applied for a job right now, um, I took this cybersecurity operations center, and I wanted to take red team, blue teams, but it wasn't available right during this year. And I was like, I just need to hurry up and graduate. I didn't want to wait another year for it to become available. Then I took this incident response too. So those are the ones I took. I might have taken this threat intelligence. I can't remember. I think I took that at the start, but and I did an internship or whatever. Okay. Anyways, there are a lot of cool classes, right? And so I just wanted to go over that. So now, the reason why I say that is because if you look at that list, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in there: internet, machine learning, applied programming, IT, whatever. And the majority of people are not going to pick risk management, right? Because they're like, risk management, this sounds like a business side or something. But it's or risk assessment, right? This one you have to take mandatory. It was on the foundations, but or mandatory. But risk assessment or something like that, you probably wouldn't take it. I would say don't do that. Because risk management, risk assessment, anything that has to do with risk operations or anything is, I would say, the most important thing when you're doing non-technical stuff, right? Or even if you're doing technical stuff too in cybersecurity. So I've been on, I would say, 5 interviews already, right? And every single interview I've been in has asked me about risk management or risk assessments, and these are from highly technical. I went for an IT position that IT cyber specialist, right? Operations specialist. And so they needed somebody who was like a hybrid, that knows the operations side and then it knows the technical side. And they asked me a bunch of technical questions, but then they asked me a bunch of risk management questions or risk assessment questions. And I knew the answers to them, and I can elaborate on it and what I would do. In one of these jobs, they literally asked me, so if you were in charge of the risk management process, you were in charge, how would you do it? How would you do the assessments? How would you start? And my advice for that would be to say, you're going to start with a framework, right? You're going to start, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay down the framework, or you're going to lay down the governance or the direction, or you're going to define what, if you're in an incident, you're doing the incident response, you're going to define what is an incident and what defines, a risk and stuff like that, but measure and stuff, and, do your risk appetite and stuff like that to see how much risk you're willing to do. So, but the main one, you would start with the framework, right? You would start with some kind of framework. Risk management, I would say, is a very, 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 very important part of cybersecurity. And I would even go so far as to say that everything falls under risk management. Okay, so when you have, let's say, a programming team that's doing reverse engineering or whatever they're doing, right? And they're creating programs, and let's say you have an administration building, and you've got a cyber ops team, and then you have a programming team, you have a networking team, you have a tech team, you have all these different teams. Your cyber operations team is gonna connect with all of them, and everything falls under that, right? Because they're going to be handling ISO standards and the ISO program. They're going to be handling frameworks, the NIST frameworks, setting all that down. They're going to be handling governance and stuff like that. And if you don't know what all that means, it's fine. You have to keep in mind that there's other parts of cybersecurity than just the technical side or the networking side, right? And then you kind of think, well, is it less important? Is it more important? It's as equally as important. But the thing is that you have to have a group of people, or a group, a sector that, and it depends on how you do it, right? It depends on how you set up your risk management. But in one of these cases where I went on an interview, okay, they had 10 people that were overseeing, different sections. So you had a technical guy, you had the manager that would oversee his little team, and then you had the ISO guy, and I would be working with him. And the interviewer would say, "You're going to work with this guy, and you're going to set up the ISO frameworks and the protocols and procedures that has to do with risk management, right? And the majority of the day, you're going to be doing hardware risk. So basically, if we need to bring in a new piece of hardware, let's say a server or anything, right, or a switch, we have to do the risk. We have to do a risk assessment on that, and see so that one class that literally said risk assessment class, that would be a great class because that would teach me how to do a risk assessment. And if I combine that with risk management, I mean, I'll be unstoppable because this is what a lot of these. Okay, so a lot of these companies that are hiring in general that are hiring cyber risk people or cyber operations people are hiring people that understand that part, how to do risk assessments, how to write up documents, how to do research on ISO and the NIST and NIST 3100. And so in the interview, this guy asked me, do you have any experience with NIST? And he said some number, right? And I said, well, I have experience and knowledge of NIST 3100. I have, but I've never really done that specific number he told me. But I said, but I've been doing research for the last 4 years, so I would be able to pick that up, right? He says, did you ever write any documents? I said, yeah, I wrote documents and stuff. So the thing is that they're going to be teams like that are going to need you to know what risk management is, right? And so this book, this is my school book, right? But I'm sure, so this is the one I would recommend, right? It's Fundamentals of Risk Management, Understanding, Evaluating, and Implementing Effective Enterprise Risk Management by Paul Hopkins and Clive Thompson, with Clive Thompson. And so it's very important and it can't be left out. Like if you're a serious person that wants to get into cybersecurity and it doesn't matter, entry level, mid level, if you want to work with people that are dealing with risk assessments and risk management, then you're gonna have to learn this. So if you don't go and get a degree, what you can do is you can go through this book, right? And I'm gonna show you little examples of it. And what I would do is each chapter, okay, I would do a presentation on it, what you learned, right? And you don't have to do the presentation for anybody. Do a presentation for yourself and look at it or whatever, or maybe send it to a colleague or a mentor and see what they say about it. If that's the only way you can do it. That way you have an understanding of risk management and then you have some kind of presentation, experience or documentation. Maybe do a mock company, say, and pretend like you're going to set up the risk management plan or the risk assessment. There's a lot of ways you can self-learn, but going to school would probably be the best because you get graded by people that know what you're looking for and stuff. But if they're looking for, there's other ways you can do this, right? Let's say you're already in the industry, you're already a cyber professional. This is a way to brush up on, move into a different sector. Maybe you don't want to be a tech no more, and you're saying, hey, I would like to get on the operations side. Then this is stuff you would have to learn. You would have to learn this stuff, right? So that's what I love about my degree. It was so mixed, right? You could focus on anything you wanted, but they gave you a mixture of everything, so you understand everything, right? So we're gonna go through here, and we're gonna do an introduction and read the introduction. So, risk management in context. This book is intended for all who want to a comprehensive introduction to the theory and application of risk management. It sets out an integrated introduction to the management of risk in public and private organizations. Studying this book will provide an insight into the world of risk management and may also help readers decide whether risk management is a suitable career option for them. Many readers will wish to use this book in order to gain a better understanding of risk management and thereby fulfill the primary responsibilities of their job with an enhanced understanding of risk. This book is designed to deliver the syllabus of the International Certificate in Risk Management qualifications of the Institute of Risk Management. There's a lot of risk management in this. However, it also acts as an introduction to discipline of risk management for those interested in the subject but not yet undertaking a course of study. We all face risk in everyday lives. Risks arise from personal activities, include those associated with health, personal financial decisions, and domestic and relationship issues. But these are outside the scope of discussion. This book is primarily concerned about risk that arise through business, government, or charity, third sector activities, and is concerned with risk in its widest guise. Okay, so this is not like an exciting read, but I mean, it is exciting. Okay, if you're in this field. Um, so this is going to go through the nature of risk and risk management. I can break all this down to you. I mean, this is what I would do. I would go through this part one, introduction to risk management. This book is well written for you to learn, right? For academics and whatever. So, but anybody can read it and learn. So, so it even tells you, see, learning outcomes. How, having studied this section, the readers will be able to read that. Okay, summarize the origins, development of risk management. And what's funny is this is not a test, right? So when you go on an interview, they're gonna say, I mean, they might, but I don't, I don't see why. That's weird. They wouldn't have you make take a test like what is risk management, and yeah, you don't have to remember each and every thing about it. You just have to know how it functions and how it works, right? So um, you would have to know the steps, and you would have to know what it is and what's the purpose of it. And this tells you, right? It's a great book. So you just learning outcomes, future, and then they do case studies. So this book has case studies, and the case studies are very important. So the class that I took, the teacher was great. He he's in the industry for 30 years. He knew how to teach this, and he had to study the case studies, right? And the case studies are going to give you real examples of how you're going to use what you're learning in that chapter. So if you're going to read this book, read the case studies. Case studies are very important, and then do some research and write a paper. And I wrote about 100,000 papers. Okay, uh, so I mean, but in this one, how he had it set up was he would have us read the chapter. We would just have a discussion on what he thought was important, right, with the class, and we had to do a page discussion on it. Write it, reference it, and then he gave us a lot of other material to look at, not just this book. But in this book, then he would have us look at the case studies. Say, you need to look at these case studies, and then we could talk about them, discuss them, and then we'd have to do a presentation or a long paper, 2-page paper or a presentation on the subjects that he wanted, right? And it was basically everything in the chapter. It was like certain most important things in the chapter and stuff. So very interesting. I learned a lot from the class. But if you're studying, the most important things would look at the case studies right here, right, for each chapter, and then what you're learning, what risk is and why is it important. And the more you get, the more chapters you get in, you're gonna get curious about the next chapter, right, and then the next one. So like risk assessment, see part 3, risk assessments and analysis. So they go through all the risks, and then they go through here and they show you how to do a risk assessment, right, or how to manage the risk assessment, and they show you how to do a risk assessment as well. And I must have did about 10 presentations in this class, and then 10 papers, 2-page papers, and then 30 discussions. I mean, it was a hard class, but it was fun. Like I read this whole book. Like you couldn't, and I had to take 10 quizzes, so, and then a final. So you don't slack, right? You're literally reading this whole book. So, but the cool thing about that is because you had to read it, or you're not passing that class. There's no way you could have passed my class without reading this, like literally reading the whole book. And I'm not talking about skimming. I'm not talking about going back and then, like we used to do, and going back and just finding the topics and then reading that line. I'm talking about I had to read this whole book. And that's how I had to do this. Like all my last classes, I literally read all these books. I like to read anyway, so I like books. But yeah, it's a really, really good book, really informative. But you have to read it, like You can skim a little bit here and there, but most of it you got to read. And so, um, you got part 4 risk response, and then this is the response to risk. Um, I'm just gonna break this down to the simplest terms. So you have risks, right? And you have risks in a company, and it can be any company. Okay, risk management is in all companies, in finance, all kinds of stuff. They all have risks. Now, you have hazard risks that are physical risks. You have risks that are software risks or hardware risks, firewalls, or people attacking you. And then you have like reputation risks to your reputation. If you do get attacked, you need to assess the risk on that. And then you can go into like the 4 T's of the risk, and how to you can either tolerate a risk, you can either terminate a risk, you can either treat the risk, or you can even transfer the risk to like insurance companies or something. So there's a lot of stuff in risk, right? And then you need to have like a incident response. So if there's an incident, like a risk went bad and it turned into an incident, and then you need to have an incident response team that goes and handles that, attacks it, shuts it down, does whatever, okay, whatever you have the incident response team do. And you need a business continuity plan. Let's say your business gets hit by COVID or something, right? And you need to keep the business continuing. You need to set that up. That's all falls under risk management. You need a governance plan that governs everything and what they abide by, their direction, their procedures and framework, and that goes over the whole cyber, or even the whole company, I would say, right? Your whole company has to have a governance of it. So that falls under risk management. So all that stuff is an umbrella under risk management. Okay. Your red team is under risk management because they have to follow the frameworks and procedures. If they don't, then what's the point, right? Your defensive team, blue team, has to fall under risk management and all the procedures and frameworks and stuff like that. And if they don't, then what's the point, right? They're not following the auditing team. Auditing team is under risk management. So risk management is cybersecurity. It doesn't matter what part of the company you're in, you are going to fall under risk management, man. It's so awesome. And so people don't really think about that, right? They don't say, they don't think like, what's risk management? Why does that have to do with cybersecurity? That's probably a little part of cybersecurity. It's not. It is cybersecurity. And the more that I go on these interviews, the more I talk to people, the more I realize risk management is cybersecurity. If you don't have a risk management plan in place, then you're in trouble. And most likely, if you have a cyber operations or SOC or whatever, anything you're dealing with, you have a risk management put in place. You have to. Okay, so risk management is awesome. Don't just look at the tech side and the hacking side. This is called hack the file, but you can't hack the file, okay, if you don't know how everything works. So when you're it all goes back to, let's say if I was hacking, right? And I'm not a hacker, but I know how to hack some stuff, right? It's called hack the file. But if I was a bad guy, I would like to do some reconnaissance on the company and what frameworks they use. And you can get that on Google. All these companies that I've applied for, that I've interviewed for, have their programs online. We use the ISO framework. You can go to job postings, right? And this is reconnaissance 101. And they'll tell you what you have to know. Yeah, we use NIST, we use NIST something, we use ISO. So once you know their framework, that's it. You know basically what their incident response is going to be when you hack them. You know if you're smart enough, right? You can plan it out and say, this is exactly what they're going to do if I attack them, right? This is what I think they're going to do. So you can have a better guess, right? I mean, they're not going to follow it. They should, right? So you know, all that reconnaissance, you're going to know a lot about them. So you're going to know their risk management program. If you figure that out, then you're going to be a lot better when you're attacking them, right? If you're not trying to get caught and you're covering your tracks when you take some shit, and take some information and you leave, you're gonna cover your tracks properly, and then you're gonna go, okay, so this is the framework they're using. This is their, you might not know their incident response plan, but you're gonna know they might follow it exactly from NIST, right? Or ISO, or the Orange Book, or whatever the heck they're using in their risk management, right? You can have educated guess. So all this is important. None of this stuff is not important, right? Your research is very important when you're doing reconnaissance on a company you're going to hack, or you're hacking for, right? Um, so risk management is awesome. Now, I didn't think it was, and I just took the class because I wanted to hurry and graduate soon. I wanted to graduate fast. And I was like, well, risk management, I'll take it. But I'm glad I took it now, because every single job that I go to is asking about risk management and risk assessments. So right here it says, describe this is what you'll learn. So this is what I was talking about, the 4 T's. So tolerate, treat, transfer, and terminate, right? If what that means is, if you look at something and you go, okay, that's a risk that we can tolerate, you're going to tolerate it, right? It doesn't have a highly likelihood that it's going to happen, and even if it does happen, it's not a really big risk. That's tolerate, right? It's just common sense. And then your next one is, terminate, right? That's one that has a high likely that's going to happen, or regular likely or low likely it's going to happen, but a high risk if it does. So you want to terminate that one, or it's both, right? It's high likely it's going to happen, and it's going to impact the business bad. It's a bad risk. There's also good risks. See, people don't know that. There's good risks, like you're taking a risk and then you're going to better your business. So, I mean, it's just a big, vast topic that is very important in cybersecurity. And the people that are doing it are usually in the cyber ops. And that's what my degree is, cyber operations and resilience, right? So they're usually in the cyber ops. But then if you're in a small company, you're doing everything. You're doing risk assessments. You're doing risk management. You're doing incident response. You're doing tech work. You're probably doing everything. Digital forensics if it's a small company. So, remember, it all falls under the umbrella of risk management. So, if you're looking to get into cybersecurity, or if it'd be good to brush up on this stuff. That way, if they even ask you, have some knowledge. It's better than nothing. Hey, what do you know about risk management? And you go, man, I don't know. I'm a tech guy, and you try to make it cool. All I do is I'm a tech guy. What I mean? That's might be fine for some people. Everybody's gonna like somebody, but it'd be better if you can say something about the 4 T's. Maybe you can bring up the 4 T's. One or two things. And, oh man, this guy knows something. Okay, we can work with that. So, risk management is very important. So pick this book up. It's called, and there's tons of books, right? It's called Fundamentals of Risk Management by Paul Hopkins and Clive Thompson. And there's tons of risk management books. I can even look at that other class, the risk assessment, and see and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy that risk assessment book, and I'm going to go through that book and see how to do a risk assessment, because this job that I applied for, that's what they said we're going to be doing. So there's a lot of risk assessments. So, I hope you liked the video. Remember, risk management is very important, and if you're getting into cybersecurity, don't sleep on it. Don't it sucks, I don't want to learn that business side or something. It's not business side, it's the cyber side. it's part of cybersecurity. It's the people that talk to that you're going to have to follow what the rules are setting in place, the ISO program or their NIST framework and stuff like that, or whatever framework they're using. Those are the ones that are setting it in place and then getting it validated, and you have to follow it. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. And I'll see you next time on Hack the File. See you later.